That is absolute bollocks. We came to see goals. We came to see decisive moments in title races. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to me to think that this goal can be disallowed because of a foul that only happens because the other guy committed a foul in the first place. It's absolute nonsense.
Everyone, including Manchester City and Liverpool, would have been probably happier to allow the goal, Sbozolai not be sent off, and therefore he's not suspended.
We're taking the joy out of football. We're finding ways to disallow goals, and this was a massive moment.
This could be the difference.
It was an incredible spectacle and obviously big ramifications, not just in terms of the title race potentially, but in terms of that race to get in the top 5 in Champions League football, because Liverpool have got very little margin for error now. I still think Arsenal go on and win the league, but the way that the City fans were celebrating, the way the players reacted, the way that Pep reacted, they feel it's a big moment.
If City are to go on and win the title, they will look back at that one moment, this one game, these 15 minutes of towards the end of this match at Anfield, where they very rarely win, and say that was the moment that turned it for us.
The title race is on. Boom. What a weekend of football that has been in the Premier League, and what a week to come. Alex Crook and Scott Minto are in the pod today. And has everybody caught their breath? Because Crook and I have just rushed over from Anfield, haven't we, fella?
We have. Yeah, what a dramatic afternoon. So many talking points. And who knows how big that last 15 minutes plus, 3 hours of stoppage time could be come the end of the season.
Scott, it was really cold at Anfield. And as you know, he has to be taken care of. You know how much he has to be taken care of, don't you?
I do. Go on, tell us a story.
Crookie, could you just tilt your camera down a little bit, please? Could you just tilt?
Well, I'll do better than that. Look, there you go. I've got a little blanket.
He's got a blanket. I had to give him a blanket. He's come to the basement and he's got a blanket to wrap his legs up because he feels very cold today, Scott.
It's cold up north.
Oh my goodness, I've seen it all now. Honestly, he's got a blanket. You're looking like the man for Milk Tray, mate. You look great.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Scott. Well, I'm very relaxed because it's Super Bowl night and we're recording this before the Super Bowl. So we don't know what's happened. So if you're listening to this, you know the result. We don't. But we've got a whole night planned. Crook and I in the basement, in the den, big TV, got pizza, whiskey, everything. We're just going for the whole night shebang. We're looking forward to it. We're excited. We don't get to do much social, Scott, as you know.
No.
Okay, should we get into it? Because I tell you what, there'll be a few people losing sleep over what happened at Anfield on Sunday. Another drama-filled weekend, Premier League action. If you think the title race had quietened down, well, you just think again, because Pep Guardiola, Erling Haaland and Bernardo Silva have made it pretty clear. It's not over yet. Liverpool 1, Manchester City 2. Now, we were doing Game Day Live on Sunday and Crook told us that it was all over and that Michael Carrick was getting out his cigar because there was going to be an unbelievable turn of events in Manchester, and Manchester United were going to eclipse Manchester City. And then Manchester City scored twice and the title race is on. So 6 points back now. And we spoke to Pep Guardiola afterwards and he's pretty clear, Scott, that they're going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and why not? And I think when Sbozolai stepped up and scored that goal in such a tight game, and it's gone so late already, and there's only been that one goal, and one bit of genius, one bit of brilliance makes a difference, just like it did with Arsenal. You're thinking, well, City at best may get an equaliser, but they're not going to go on and win this game, and the gap would be 8 points or maybe even 9, and it's going to be too far. So, look. Every game only gives 3 points, but some games just give a little bit more. And psychologically, that could be absolutely massive for City and the title race.
Okay, so there's a lot to get into in this game. Let's start with the big refereeing decisions and the controversy that has been caused. First of all, you spoke to Arne Slot after the game, and he thinks the big turning point is when Mark Gahey isn't sent off for hauling down Mo Salah.
Yeah, and actually, I think he used what happened at the end with the disallowed goal and the red card for Dominic Szoboszlai, who, again, for me, underline why he's been Liverpool's most important player this season. He used that to highlight the inconsistencies because he said, I've got no problem with Szoboszlai being sent off. The referee has applied the laws. Sunderland the big winners because it means he can't play in that game in midweek. But if you're going to send Sbozolai off for denying a clear goal scoring opportunity, you have to do the same with Mark Gay. Earlier in the game, it was 0-0 at that point. It was tight. You would imagine that Liverpool, potentially, if Gay had been dismissed, could go on and win the game. Certainly, they wouldn't have lost it. You wouldn't have thought.
Only 5% of people think Mark Gay shouldn't have been sent off, said Arne Slot to us after the game. And they all work at the PGMO. Scott?
Well, I said to you at the time, I must be working at the PGMO then, because I said, I think you can make an argument of Ruben Diaz can get across. I think I also said you can make an argument that he couldn't. And if you're not quite sure, then you go with the referee's call. I don't see how you can properly compare the two. You know, one is a 50-50, maybe 40-60 that Salah will get a shot off. The other one, he's rugby tackled him, or maybe even, I don't know what the American football term is, but he's absolutely taken Erling Haaland out, really, isn't he? So not quite comparing the two. And I listened to the interview as well that Crookie did with him. He was quite happy to talk about the Mark Gurhey incident. And then he said, but I don't want to talk about the rest.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get into the rest, which was the big controversial incident at the end of the game, chaos ensues. They think they've scored Manchester City, a clinching goal at 3-1, right at the very end. Alisson, God knows what he's doing. He's forgotten he's a goalkeeper. He thinks he's playing in midfield or in attack for Liverpool at this point. He's left the goal open at the other end, and they score. Cherki rolls the ball from the halfway line. It goes all the way in. There's a tussle between Sbozolai and Haaland. Neither of them touch it. It goes into the net. The goal initially is given. Everybody spills onto the pitch from the Manchester City bench. There's actually supporters that come onto the pitch that have to be wrestled off. It kicks off massive. Everyone tells me that it sounded like we were three very excitable schoolboys getting well into it, which we were, because it was absolute chaos, but brilliant chaos at the same time. Then the goal gets disallowed. Now, before we pick apart the decision, let's speak to a man who knows well whether or not this should have been the case. Former Premier League referee Dermot Gallagher was on the final word with Majestic and Alan Pardew minutes after the decision had been made, and this is how he explained it.
We're all happy, if you think about it, when Haaland's pulled back because the ball's still going in the net.
Yes.
He hasn't denied a goal. He hasn't. You know, if it dribbles in the net, everyone goes, okay, yeah, he's played advantage.
But it wouldn't have gone in the net, would it? Because he would have cleared it off the line if Haaland didn't foul him.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
Because then,
And that's my point. That's exactly my point. It wouldn't have gone in net because Haaland has then fouled Sbozolai. So therefore, because that foul has occurred, you have to penalise. But the only reason that foul occurred is because the first one was by Sbozolai,
makes sense.
which occurred to the red card, which is why you default back to the original.
So
one.
yeah, it's like a chain reactions happens because
100%.
because
Yeah,
we've
I
seen
know,
that
I
second.
get that. I understand the logic of it. I mean, it ain't like, rocket science. I understand the logic of it. But my point is, the ball did go in the net.
But it wasn't going in the net.
Unless he was fouled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the key
So
issue,
therefore,
isn't
we all go back and get a guy sent off and the goal gets chalked off and we have a free kick on the edge.
it? and
That's my point.
As week in, week out, Al, poor old VAR gets a good kick in.
Yeah, of course.
Right. That is absolute bollocks. With all due respect, that is absolute nonsense. It is. It is. I'm sorry. And I know I'm going to be bleeped out there, but I don't care. And I'll tell you why. Because the explanation of this decision is that there is a foul by Dominic Szoboszlai on Haaland. And then Haaland fouls Dominic Szoboszlai. No. There is no foul on Dominic Szoboszlai by Haaland if Dominic Szoboszlai doesn't foul him first. The only reason we have the second foul is because of the foul committed by the Liverpool player in the first place. So you can quite happily play the advantage and allow the ball to go into the net, because guess what? We came to see goals. We came to see decisive moments in title races. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to me to think that this goal can be disallowed because of a foul that only happens because the other guy committed a foul in the first place. It's absolute nonsense.
You're a little bit hot under the collar about this one, aren't you? I think what it does do, it makes a mockery of what we've been watching for years and believing to be the rules of football. It basically takes away the idea of the advantage rule. Because as you say, Erling Haaland has been fouled first. He play continues. The ball ends up in the back of the net. Haaland doesn't actually end up touching it. And they've brought the play back for the earlier foul. Well, there's no advantage there to the attacking team, is there?
Absolutely none. And actually, if you read the rule on advantage, it actually, I mean, there was some suggestion, and we were obviously trying to get clarification. I mean, as far as I understand it, the VAR told the ref that they checked it for a foul by Haaland, and in picking up the foul by Haaland, they realised that there was a foul by Sbozolai. I mean, as if you couldn't see that in the first place. The referee had already played the advantage as far as I was concerned. And it would have been a dog so and therefore a red, so he had to pull it back. We were told initially, and I don't know who this was who told talkSPORT this, that you can't play advantage with a red card, which is absolute nonsense because the law says if the referee plays an advantage for an offence where a caution or a sending off would have been issued had play been stopped, then the caution or sending off must be issued as soon as the ball is out of play. So clearly you can play advantage when a red card could be administered. It's absolute nonsense, Scott. We're taking the joy out of football. We're finding ways to disallow goals. And this was a massive moment. And I tell you this is a real story. This actually happened. It's true. Crook will verify he was in the tunnel. This is not a lie. But doing the interviews after the game, and Pep Guardiola is talking to Crook. He finishes with Crook, and I jump in and I said, Pep, what happens if you lose out to Arsenal in terms of the title on goal difference by 1 goal? What happens? What happens? And he says, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, that decision has cost you a goal. If you lose the title because of that goal, how are you going to react to that? And he said to me, go back and look at all of the decisions. Go back and look at them all. I said, but this decision is key. If you end up losing on goal difference, the title to Arsenal, how are you going to react? He said to me, don't worry, we'll score more goals.
I can vouch for that. We didn't get it on tape because I thought the interviews were over, so I stopped recording. I didn't expect him to try and nick my job and gate crash the interview.
Well, ask the right questions.
I'm going to let you two bicker for a while. I mean, I listened on the way home to Madge and Pards and Dermot as well. And Pards was saying it's not rocket science. I think it is because I'm totally confused. I've got to be honest with you. Look, just from a football point of view, we want to see goals and one foul should negate the other. So therefore, allow the goal. But what they are saying is, yes, they could have played the advantage and allowed the goal, but the goal didn't go in until Haaland fouled Sbozolai. So therefore, you can't ignore that one.
But he couldn't have fouled Sbozolai if Sbozolai hadn't have pulled him back in the first place, because Sbozolai isn't as fast as Haaland and he would be nowhere near him.
And we saw that. And I think if the three of us were given a 30-yard head start, none of us would have got anywhere near Haaland and probably wouldn't have been able to pull him back either. You're preaching to the converted, Sam. From a football point of view, everyone, including Manchester City and Liverpool, would have been probably happier to allow the goal, Sbozolai not be sent off, and therefore he's not suspended because you were literally seconds away from the game anyway.
Well, that's what Pep said to you.
Yeah, and Arne Slot to a certain extent. As I say, he said Reggie Labrie and Sunderland will be delighted because I think he is probably Liverpool's most important player. And Pep, as you say, went along with that and said it's not fair that they've now not got Sbozolai for a game. Yeah, it's all baffling. And that decision could be huge because it could come down to goal difference. I think you made the point, actually, that if the goal had stood, would Liverpool have also dropped a place in the league table below Brentford? So
it's not just the title race, it's also European places. If this was the final day of the season, we'd be talking about this for months.
Yeah. And it could come back to be so crucial. But that last 15 minutes, Scott's right. I still think Arsenal go on and win the league. But the way that the City fans were celebrating, the way the players reacted, the way that Pep reacted, they feel it's a big moment. And I pointed out on air, when they got the equaliser, Bernardo Silva's immediate reaction was to go and fetch the ball from the back of the net.
You did, yeah.
So they clearly believe they could still go and win the game, as they did. But there's so many potential big moments. Obviously, the penalty, the winning goal, the brilliant save that Donnarumma made to deny McAllister when it would have been 2-2, and I'd have got a correct score prediction for charity. We won't bring that up. The Mark Gay decision not to send him off, and obviously the goal ruled out at the end. These are all massive, massive details that come the end of the season could be absolutely huge.
Absolutely. Honestly, it was an unbelievable game. And do you know what? Someone said to me afterwards that it was the best ending to a Premier League football match that they can remember. And I do feel like
I think maybe Sergio Aguero is saying "hold my beer" on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't me; it was somebody else. But the best moment for me was as we were talking through the situation. There was this little voice in my ear from hundreds of miles away, going, "What, what?" as if their balls had been grabbed by someone. Scott,
apologies for that. I mean, look again. I quickly watched back on TV and you know, Gary Neville was saying the same thing. I listened to Pards and Pards was saying the same thing. And we're all saying the same thing. We're all saying it's about goals. One foul negates the other. And look, they're 6 points behind Arsenal. If they are to gain those 6 points, they've obviously got to win more games and probably will win them by more as well. So naturally, the goal difference will get closer. But it's not as if they're on 32 and Arsenal on 27 in terms of the goal difference. And therefore, it probably won't make a difference. This could be the difference. But look, we're probably being a little bit dramatic in that sense. What I would say is...
But we loved it. It was great drama. It was great passion. It was great emotion. We felt it. We were there. It was wonderful. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody's feeling that moment, Scott. It was great, wasn't it? It was brilliant. So we can get excited about it. That's what it's about. That's what football does to you. It grips you. It takes you into a dimension that you shouldn't go. It makes you sing like Mariah Carey.
That's the only time I'll be compared to her. Look, we let's just say we averaged just under 50. We were schoolboys again, weren't we? Just jumping up and down, whether Liverpool was our team, whether City was our team. We absolutely loved it. And I do think that was a big win. If, and it's a big if City are to go on and win the title, they will look back at that one moment, this one game, these 15 minutes of towards the end of this match at Anfield, where they very rarely win, and say that was the moment that turned it for us.
Because actually the game was sort of a microcosm of where City have been out of late. They dominated in the first half. They missed some big chances. Haaland probably should have scored after 2 minutes. Liverpool weren't at the races in the first half. Half time comes around. I don't know what happens to Manchester City during that 15 minutes at the moment, but Liverpool come back out for the second half. It's a completely different game. They've had chances before Sbozolai scores his worldie. Then somehow City summon up the power to come back and take the lead. It was an incredible spectacle and obviously big ramifications, not just in terms of the title race potentially, but in terms of that race to get in the top 5 in Champions League football, because Liverpool have got very little margin for error now. They're 4 points behind 5th place. They go to Sunderland, who haven't lost at home all season without their best player. Manchester United played 24 hours earlier. Chelsea have got a game that I think most people would expect them to win. If that gap to the top 5 becomes 7 points after this midweek, it's not just a big moment for Manchester City, it's a big one for Liverpool as well.
It absolutely is. And just to pick you up on a couple of points, Scott, it's not the first time or last time that you've been compared to Mariah Carey, because I'm sure someone has told you that all they want for Christmas is you, and that you're a dream lover. But also the second point that you said, that we're averaging under 50. Well, we are pulling you down there, fella. That's absolutely true. Also, it is the first time that Manchester City have won after conceding first in the league this season. And it has been Achilles' heel, actually, where they've conceded the first goal. They haven't been able to come up with a comeback, but they did that today. So I think it could be a turning point. And for Liverpool, it could be massive, Scott, and especially in terms of the future of Arne Slot, because it's also the first time this season that they've lost when scoring first.
I just think, I mean, that for me, the couple of the stats you came out with, one of each side, the bigger one is Manchester City. We know how bad they've been in the second half this calendar year already, but they found a way to win at what most people say is the most difficult place to go and get a victory. But it was for Liverpool, and I'm an Arne Slot fan. I think he's such a classy guy, and clearly he is a very good coach. But with the turn of events that we've all discussed, people might say he should have dealt with it better. Liverpool are where they are. Now, I think this last season was sensational, but if he doesn't finish in a Champions League place, and that's looking like top 5, then I think there's every chance he could lose his job in the summer, especially with someone like Xabi Alonso waiting in the wings. I don't want it to happen, although that then means, because obviously I want Chelsea to finish in the top 5, that a certain other club finishes outside it. But what a fight we've got. And it's unless he wins the Champions League, even if he wins the FA Cup, that's not going to be good enough. Liverpool Football Club have to be playing Champions League football on a yearly basis.
Okay, lots to get into because this week we've got 10 live Premier League games for you. Monday night is Championship action. We've got Sheffield United's match against Middlesbrough. That's a big clash at the top of the Championship. Then Tuesday night, we start our first of 10 games, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all across the talkSPORT network. So it's on talkSPORT, talkSPORT 2, the talkSPORT app and Talk Radio. Just download the app. You've got access to absolutely everything. You can listen to your club in the Premier League this week only on talkSPORT. So let's get into it now. Let's start with Thursday night's game and work backwards because the champions-elect, as they were with about 10 minutes to go, take on Brentford, knowing that by the time they start at 8 o'clock on Thursday, the gap could just be 3 points. Brentford against Arsenal Thursday. Crook is absolutely certain that Arsenal go to Brentford and win. Why?
I just feel like they've had their little wobble, obviously losing at home to Manchester United, dropping points in the lead up to that game. We wondered how they would recover. The answer was emphatically they've gone to Leeds. I think we're watching that game on Friday night, both of you, and you see how difficult Ellen Road is to go. Arsenal made light work of them, won 4-0. Sunderland put up a real fight, actually, for a lot of the game that I was at on Saturday. They made it a real physical battle. Arsenal struggled to create chances before Zubimendi broke the deadlock just before half-time. And in the end, they've won with a bit in hand with the 2 goals from Gyökeres. If you can do that against one of the surprise packages of the season, without Erdegaard, without Saka, without Marino, I think that sends a real statement. And listen, I'm taking nothing away from Brentford. Great win for them, Newcastle, in a game that I'm told both sides were struggling to really hit top form. I just think defensively, Arsenal can go to Brentford. They can shut out the likes of Thiago and Ouattara, who I thought played really well at St James's Park. And they're going to get a couple of goals themselves and probably win 2-0. That's my prediction.
Okay, but I will remind you of the fact that so far this season, the GTEC Community Stadium, in that little area of the sandwiched in between the River Thames and the M4, that Brentford have beaten Aston Villa. They've drawn 2-2 with Chelsea. They have beaten Manchester United. They've beaten Liverpool. They've beaten Newcastle. They've also drawn with Leeds, thrashed Bournemouth, drawn with Tottenham Hotspur, beaten Sunderland, and they are very difficult in set-piece situations. Now, obviously, Arsenal very good at set pieces, so that may well be it ends up becoming a bit of a set-piece battle. But their home record does stand up to scrutiny, Scott.
It does. They've played 12 and they've only lost twice. And you just mentioned the teams that they've beaten as well. And look, the job that Keith Andrews has done is getting to the point where if he puts them in a European place, then a Mikel Arteta almost needs to do the quadruple to get manager of the season. You know, honestly, the players that have gone, the goals that have gone, the captain that's gone, the way they seem to be fitter, working harder. He's making brave decisions that he can drop the big boys, like he's shown with Jordan Henderson and Damsgaard as well, and the club captain. This is a team that's in this together. So this is another one where we all thought the Leeds one, who were a difficult team to beat, and the way that Arsenal showed pure championship winning quality. This is another one of those. And if they're not at it in the way that it's a little bit more obvious with the crowd at Ellen Road, it's not so obvious at the GTEC. But if they're off it just 1%, 2%, 3%, then they might not get the 3 points. And Arsenal, with what's happened with City, and we don't yet know how they get on against Fulham, but we would expect them to win, may well need to get 3 points there. And if things don't start well, it could be very interesting.
I can see Alex Crook. He's sitting across from me. Literally, he's there. I can touch him if I want to. But he doesn't look very relaxed. I've given him whiskey. I've given him a blanket. He doesn't look very relaxed. He doesn't look very relaxed.
And now my earpiece is falling out.
His earpiece keeps falling out. He can't handle it. It's supposed to go in the other ear. I think, no, that's the right ear.
That's the right ear.
Is he not warmed up yet either? How's that blanket?
He's not warmed up yet. He's not. The circulation's damaged. There's all sorts of problems here. He looks hunched over. Looks stressed about it. But Arsenal have not been, have they? You know, their fans have been. But Arsenal have not. They've been plotting their way strategically and methodically through this Premier League season.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is just another step towards what is inevitable?
Yes, I do. And obviously 6 points is more possible to make up than 9. I think I said it when we were on air on Sunday, 9 points and it is game over. 8 points, even if it had ended in a draw at Anfield, I still don't think anybody reels them in. 6 points just focuses the mind, especially if Manchester City do, as we expect, beat Fulham. So I think Mikel Arteta will be drilling it into his players over the next few days. We just keep doing what we're doing. We can't afford to take our foot off the gas. There's still 13 cup finals to play. And that's another reason why I expect them to go to the GTEC and get the job done.
Last season, Arsenal dropped crucial points in February, and they did so in games against West Ham and Nottingham Forest. And I'm sure that will be in Mikel Arteta's mind, Scott Minto.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the fixture list. Of course, Arsenal have got a game the following Wednesday as well against Wolves. So even if City do beat Fulham, if Arsenal are able to beat Brentford and then you would expect to beat Wolves, then again, that puts the pressure right back on City, because at this moment in time, as we speak, and especially, as I say, if City do beat Fulham the night before they play Brentford, the pressure could be well and truly on Arsenal. But I've said from the start of the season, I fancy Arsenal. I think the fact that they've got the strongest squad, but also the hurt of the last 3 years is almost an itch they can't scratch properly until they actually do it. And I think they're absolutely ready to do it, even if they get injuries. Their front players are not being prolific, and yet they're still finding ways to win. Their defense is superb. They're the best team in Europe without the ball. I said this to you guys on the show earlier, that the only way they lose it is the fans. And that's the fans getting overly nervous. We saw that in the United game. And if they're like that, but they weren't, as you well know, Crookie, you were there in the Sunderland match. Sunderland made it very difficult. And I think the Arsenal fans realised they were a little bit too much. So, yeah, I still fancy Arsenal to go on and do it.
Well, they've got great fixtures, let's be honest. Look, I mean, the next couple of weeks is going to be really tense. It's going to be really exciting. They've got Brentford away. Maybe they'll win that. Maybe they beat Wolves at home. Wolves away, sorry. They've got Wigan in between, which is in the Cup, which they'll obviously be favourites to win, and that's without being dismissive to Wigan. Danny Jameson, who's a friend of ours, is a big Wigan fan, and he said to me, "There's absolutely no chance that anything happens apart
Could be 10.
Arsenal thrashing." But after that, it's Tottenham away, which Crook and I will be at, and Chelsea at home, which Crook and I will be at, which we're very much looking forward to attending. So, you've got 2 massive games there. Anything can happen. And then, of course, you've got a couple more games, Brighton and then Everton, before they play Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final. And guess what comes round the corner after that? Bournemouth and then Manchester City again. At least, no matter what happens, the next few weeks are going to be really, really fascinating and good, because that's what we want. We want debate. We want the idea of it being close. I actually, I predicted Manchester City would win the title at the beginning of the season. And for my own ego, I'd love that to happen. However, because I like Mikel and I like his little attitude, I really want him to win the title. And I also have this thing about giving managers the keys to the castle and letting them get on with the job and proving that they can do it. And I think he's doing that. So I kind of like the story of Mikel Arteta. I do like it.
I think what we're seeing as well is, the benefit of that deep squad. Gyökeres on the bench, didn't sulk, comes on, scores 2 goals. And you know what? Quietly in the last few weeks, he has started to weigh in with the goals. Jesus started the game. Havertz played, but in a more deeper role. I thought he was excellent. Zubimendi is in there, and I think he's been one of the unsung heroes of the season. No Saka, as I've mentioned. Martinelli comes off the bench, and he looks sharp. Again, he's not feeling sorry for himself that he's not in the starting lineup. Calafiori was back at left back. In terms of squad depth, they are beyond comparison, Arsenal, and I think we are seeing that.
And that's been the case all season. That's why they've plotted their way so successfully through to the position that they're in now. And I like that. And I mean, we were looking through the squad earlier on. Crook and I were just going through and just looking at who they've still got in the squad, who's injured at the moment. And it's almost like a full team now, right? So they're going to the run-in and they've got everybody available. And it's amazing. You've got Jurrien Timber there, who's fantastic. Calafiori has just come back. And his backup is Piero Hincapié. 2 years ago, he went unbeaten in the Bundesliga and went all the way to the Europa League final. Then and he's second choice. And then he's keeping out the guy who was England's left back a year ago. It's absolutely stellar, this squad, and it's great that they've amassed that. And that's what you need to win the Premier League. You know, it's the best league in the world. You need people. And Manchester City have done that as well. They've added Antoine Semenyo and Mark Gahey, who is obviously brilliant at the heart of their defence. They take on Fulham on Wednesday night, Scott. I'm going to this game, actually. And City, look, I think they'll be fueled with optimism after what's happened this week, right? I can't see anything other than a Manchester City win. And I like Fulham. I think they're a good team. But, you know, they lost out to Everton. They'll be licking their wounds from that. But I can't see them troubling City. Can you?
No, I can't. And what we saw with the Everton game at the Cottage as well was a team who, a bit like City, were very, very good in the first half. Well, City have been up until, as I say, the Anfield game, and then not very good in the second. And I just think the firepower that City have, you know, we've been speaking about it, but also just the psychological aspect. I mean, you cannot go to Liverpool, be 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, find a way to win, and then not get a victory against Fulham when you know that Arsenal are playing the next day. This is your chance. You're playing before them. And then after this game, Arsenal play twice. So they're going to be playing in the next round before City. You have to psychologically put it back to them. And look, I've just been quickly totting up how many games would be left after that Manchester City game in the league. If they carried it on till 6 points up until that game, and then City beat Arsenal in April, there's 5 games left, just 3 points the difference. And that's when squeaky bum time comes out.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I just think it's going to be a great end to the season. I'm so excited about it. I mean, they haven't got a great away record, have they, Fulham? That is for sure. When you look at their recent form as well on the road, it's not been great. I mean, just 3 victories, 2 draws, and 7 defeats in their 12 away games this season. Wednesday night sees Sunderland take on Liverpool. And you think this is the big game of Wednesday night, don't you? And you're not convinced that Liverpool are going to win it.
No, I'm not, particularly without Sbozolai. I think they've got a problem at right back now, obviously with Frimpong and Conor Bradley being unavailable. Sbozolai, second half, bossed that game from right back, which is really impressive when you think he's a midfielder by trade. Sunderland unbeaten at home. Got a point, didn't they, at Anfield in the reverse meeting around Christmas time? So, yeah, I think this is tough for Liverpool. And you know what Arne Slot said afterwards as well? It's been that kind of season for us where everything that can go against us has gone against us. And I wonder mentally if that's starting to take its toll as well on Liverpool.
Well, it's interesting that he says that, don't you think, Scott?
Yeah, but I look at Sunderland and they're the only team in the Premier League yet to lose at home.
Yeah, they've got an amazing home record. And do you know what? They're not a great away from home, but that crowd does something very, very special. To think that they are a promoted club and a promoted club that went up through the playoffs, and they are where they are. I mean, Reggie Lebrie's right up there as well in terms of manager of the season. But I just think we've seen it before. I remember when Arsenal were really good and really strong, and yet Sunderland kind of bullied them. And bullied Arsenal, arguably the sort of most physical, strongest, well-organised side in the Premier League, arguably in Europe. And I just think against this Liverpool side, I don't think they can handle that physicality. So I'm actually with Crookie here. I'm not necessarily saying that Sunderland will beat Liverpool, but I think Liverpool do really well to come away with 3 points, the only team so far this season. Well, Liverpool's away record has caused a little bit of concern, hasn't it, this campaign? Their inability to maintain leads when they take them. And I wonder whether or not the weaknesses at the back are going to come into sharp focus here. Because Virgil van Dijk, you know, I think, Scott, you mentioned this when we were doing the show, you know, for the Bernardo Silva goal on Sunday, he switches off a little bit, doesn't he?
His standards have dipped. His standards have dipped, Scott, this season. He's certainly not the imperious character that he once was. And actually, Sunderland, I mentioned, were physical against Arsenal. Brian Brobby epitomised that. And I can just see a scenario where he roughs Van Dijk up a bit, Brobby, in this game.
Yeah, he was ball watching for the goal, and the ball's kind of looped over. Konate's gone out to Haaland, and he's never going to win it. But there wasn't that body turn. Okay, what if Haaland wins that? Am I going to be able to pick up? To be fair to him, he had 2 players around him, wasn't just Silva, but it's still his body shape. And yeah, I certainly don't want to say just because he's a year on from last season and Liverpool aren't playing well, that physically he's kind of gone. I don't believe that's the case, but he's definitely, Cookie's right, he's definitely not on it in the way that he was last season. He's not the only one, of course, but I just think the physicality that Sunderland can bring, especially Brian Bobby, but almost all of them, the way they play with that intensity, with the fans behind them, I don't see them getting 3 points.
Do you think Arne Slot's position as Liverpool manager will come under scrutiny if they find themselves in the situation that Everton jump above them in the table?
I don't think they're going to change the manager mid-season. I think they.
That's not why I asked you.
Well, I think his position is already under scrutiny, certainly from the Liverpool supporters, and the hierarchy aren't stupid. They'll realise that the standards have slipped this year, and if they were to miss out on Champions League football, I think they would seriously contemplate a change. But I don't think they're seriously contemplating a change at this moment in time, even if they drop points as Sunderland and Everton overhaul them in the table.
Sunderland against Liverpool is live on talkSPORT. That's Wednesday night. We've got loads of games over the course of the week. All 10 of them are available on the talkSPORT app. Just download it, pick the game that you want to listen to, and you can. It's great. It's pretty easy to do. talkSPORT, talkSPORT 2, the Talk Radio, and the talkSPORT app has got absolutely everything you need Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We've done Thursday. We've done Wednesday. Let's touch on Tuesday, because there's two big matches, including, Michael Carrick's going to have to put out that cigar and get ready for West Ham, Crook.
He's still got the cigar. I was talking about the race for the top five. I know I've been winding you two up saying I think United can get second place.
Hold on, not just us you've been winding up. I've had messages from people who are saying he is insufferable.
I'm getting under people's
He's
skin.
still talking about them being second. They haven't gone. Right, hold on, because we're going to take a break, come back, and then we'll talk West Ham, Manchester United. You can see he's already a pain in the backside. So you imagine what you're going to get over the next 10 minutes. So this week, talkSPORT brings you all 10 games. Tottenham, Newcastle, 7:30, West Ham, 8:15 on Tuesday night. Scott, we like to pull back the curtain. This is Premier League All Access. We pull back the curtain on what happens in the Premier League, what happens around the Premier League. I've told you the great story about me chasing Pep down the tunnel earlier on.
Gate crashing my interview.
Gate crashing your interview because you couldn't ask a proper question. I looked a little bit, I must admit, I looked a little bit desperate when I was chasing
You did, actually.
I did. But I got a good answer.
I was hoping he would pie you and just walk off.
Yeah, but he didn't, did he? He came back.
No,
He came and gave me a great line.
Yeah.
He gave me the best line, which was, we'll get the goals. I liked it. It was great. But I did look a little bit stupid,
You did.
Scott, because I was going, Pep, like that. It was desperate, but it happened.
Sam, I'm sure he then went back and went, Sam.
I don't think he did, Scott, but it's nice of you to say so. Anyway, because we like to pull back the curtain and just give an insight to what it's really like. Scott and I can testify to the fact that he has been, this one, Alex Crook, an absolute nightmare over the last 24 hours. Because ever since Michael Carrick won 4 in a row, congratulations to Michael, good friend of ours, we like him. He's been saying, we're going to finish second in every group. And when you're mates with Alex Crook, you've got about 50 groups that he's in with you, right? So you get the same. What he does is he sends one message in a group, he copies it, and he posts it in all of them. It's so annoying. But just before we started recording this segment, he's decided to flip-flop and say they're going to finish third. Scott, did that happen or did that happen?
It absolutely happened. So he said second, didn't he? So both of us went, hey, we'll put 50, I'll give you 50 quid bet. I even gave him odds of 2 to 1.
What would you give me for third?
No. We gave you second and we said it wouldn't happen and then you changed your mind.
It's all about the top 5. Champions League football would be a brilliant achievement. I just thought it'd be hilarious if after all the travails under the previous fella, if Michael Carrick could lead United to second.
What was his name, the previous fella?
He whom shall not be named.
Scott.
The Portuguese guy.
Scott, come for him.
I'm just worried because at some point I'm going to annoy him and then he's never going to say my name again.
He'll have a tattoo of your name by then.
But listen,
he still
just
call
on
ball genius, the little ball genius.
Oh, that doesn't get brought up anymore, does it?
No, I've still got a soft spot for Erik ten Hag. He delivered a couple of trophies.
No, that's because you had a beer with him and me in the director's box once.
And he delivered a couple of trophies, unlike the previous fella. But anyway, moving on to United and Carrick. Listen, we'll never know, will we, what would happen had Christian Romero not lived up to his nickname of captain liability and got himself sent off.
Who gave him that nickname?
Me on Friday, and I got battered by Tottenham fans for it. They're quite quiet over the last 48 hours, funnily enough. But take nothing away from United. I think they'd have won the game anyway. I think Carrick continues tactically to prove that he's a class act, and long may it continue. But this is a tricky game at West Ham, because I think we all expected, apart from him to my left, Sam Matterface, that West Ham would go and win at Turf Moor. They did that with minimum of fuss. They've won 3 out of the last 4 in the Premier League. A month ago, they were dead and buried. Now they've got momentum. They've given themselves some hope. So I think this is a real banana skin for United, and I would be absolutely delighted if they come away with a narrow victory.
What I actually said is that Burnley at home have actually been quite good. It's not a foregone conclusion that West Ham win. I think West Ham should be going to Burnley and win. That's why I said that Tottenham should have gone to Burnley and won as well, because Burnley talk about struggling. They're sitting in the bottom 3. They've got 15 points this season from 25 games. If you're not going to Burnley and winning, then you're having a bit of trouble. But they stopped West Ham. They stopped Tottenham from winning. They stopped Liverpool from winning. So I was like, you never know. There could be an opportunity here for West Ham. There wasn't, and they bounced back, and that's good. And I think a lot of that is down to the change that's happened since they basically said, you know what, Lucas Paquetá, if you don't want to be here, bugger off. We'll concentrate on what we're doing. If you don't want to fight with us, you don't want to be in the trenches with us, we'll do this ourselves. And they've done that. And I think that's been really impressive, actually, from West Ham. They have got talent, Scott. But actually, what's really annoying about West Ham is that they are actually still massively in danger because of the points difference. But crucially, they've got so much great talent. Asensio Somerville scored 5 games in a row now. Some of the players that they haven't been getting the best out of are starting to come to the fore. And it just does beg the question, what they've been messing around with for the last 6 months.
Yeah, Mateus Fernandes looks like a player now, doesn't he? And as if he's sort of already grown up, probably a year or two within just a month. I think there's several things to it. But actually, I'll go back to it, and I kind of joked the other day, he's calling it Dr. Tottenham. Gave them the shot in the arm, and suddenly that could have been the worst possible fixture to go to. I know what it's like playing for West Ham in the Tottenham. I know what it's like with Chelsea. You can't afford to lose that. And they found a way to win. Because after that Wolves game especially, but even the Forest game, I thought they were done and dusted. Tottenham, Sunderland, first half at Stamford Bridge, and then the big boys came on. And then that win, not an easy one, but they made it look easy. Somerville is looking a player. Jared Bowen is the player that, we know he is. They've gone back to a back 4, which I think suits them a lot more. And you know what? Tati Castellanos and Pablo Felipe, the latter didn't play in the last goal, didn't start in the last game. I don't think they're quality Premier League players, but what they do give is energy. And they're not scarred by what's happened in the last 6, 12, 18 months at West Ham. And I think when you get something like that, on a day-to-day, when you're feeling really down and you've got no confidence, you need people to come in and inject that enthusiasm on a daily basis at the training ground. So the combination of a few things has meant that West Ham are right back in it, and they're only 3 points behind Forest.
Yeah, the other game that's on Tuesday night is Tottenham against Newcastle United. This is a huge game for both these two teams. Newcastle without a winning 5 in all competitions. Their last victory, in fact, their only victory since the 7th of January in that epic game that Scott and I watched in a pub in Fulham between Newcastle and Leeds. It was the win in the Champions League against PSV. They're really struggling. They've lost 3 in a row. They can't afford to lose a 4th in a row. But maybe Dr. Tottenham, as Scott has coined them, will come to their rescue. Crook?
Yeah, I think it's a massive game for both teams and both managers, really, because, I think the majority of match-going fans are still behind Eddie Howe. There were boos at half-time and full-time at St James's Park, which is unusual. There has been a lot of noise on social media about the manager, about the recruitment in the summer, which you have to say has left a bit to be desired. So I think for his own belief in what he's doing, Eddie Howe needs a win here. I think some of the things he was saying in the press conference afterwards, that clearly I'm not doing my job properly. He just had a little bit of a look of a beaten man. I've not seen that before from Eddie Howe. On the other side of it, Thomas Frank, I think, looked haunted after the defeat of Manchester United. His captain, having made some ridiculous remarks on social media, has got himself sent off. So this is a really intriguing fixture, because if Tottenham lose it, and I think they probably will, They've got Arsenal, as you say, next in the North London derby. They are sleepwalking into a relegation battle. They could find themselves in a position where the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, one of the best grounds in Europe, might end up being the best ground in the Championship.
Well, they won't get relegated, but they are going to be in a battle to stay in the league. That is for sure. But that's not a surprise because they were a battle to stay in the. They were in a battle to stay in the league last year. And actually, if the 3 teams that had gone down weren't as bad as they were, and if the 2 teams that are going to go down this season guaranteed aren't as bad as they are, then Tottenham will be well in the mix. I think they've got enough points to probably get over the line, but it's still not going to be comfortable. And when you go back to look at the results that Newcastle have picked up over Tottenham over recent years, 6-1 at home in 2023. They did lose there in December 2023, 4-1, but then they beat them in the subsequent game 4-0 at home. They beat them 2-1. They beat them 2-1 again in January last season, a double over them last campaign. They beat them in the League Cup already this season and drawn 2-2 with them already this season. And by the way, they didn't deserve to draw that game. It was only Romero scoring that overhead kick in the last minute that stopped Newcastle from winning the game. And that's been one of their big issues, actually, conceding goals late on. 11 goals conceded past the 90-minute mark this season in the Premier League alone. It's happened more in the Champions League as well. But what made you happier this weekend, Alex Crook? Christian Romero getting sent off or Manchester United winning?
Listen, obviously Manchester United winning.
Are you sure by that? Because I'm not sure. The messages that I got seem to suggest that you were much happier about Romero getting sent off.
Just because the Spurs fans were quite vitriolic after what I was saying about Romero, suggesting that he should have been stripped of the captaincy, that actually he's not as good a player as he thinks he is and they think he is, and that he's a liability. And then he goes diving in with that challenge on Casemiro that I can't believe Stuart Pearce was defending during the commentary, by the way. And, you know, he proves basically that everything I've been saying and that they've been reacting to was right.
Okay, Guru, thank you very much for your assessment. We appreciate that. Scotty, how do you see the game going before we let you go?
I'm doing the game for talkSPORT, so I'm
Oh,
really...
I'll see you there.
Oh, brilliant. Nice one.
I'm doing it for television, so I'll see you there. I'm looking forward to it.
So you won't see him because you'll be in your Winnebago, won't you? Quaffing on your caviar and your prawn sandwiches.
No, but Scott's there, so I'll make a special exception. I'll come down from my high perch to go and see him. Don't you worry about that.
Can we borrow one of your TV screens, please? Because I know you get about 4 massive TV screens.
We are. It is quite luxurious, actually. You know, having all of those screens and access to the VAR monitor. It is. But I will, as always, I will help you out, Scott. If you buy me a beer afterwards.
Absolutely. Look. It's a team that's not very good at home against a team that's not very good away, and it's a really, really difficult one to call. The thing is, I think Tottenham are in a worse position than Newcastle, and not just in terms of the table. It just means in terms of pressure on the manager and the pressure on the players. And when you're that bad at home, boy, do you really, really feel it. You almost feel like that second half at Manchester City. They want to try and bottle that, but when you go to Manchester United, go down to 10 men, play like that, it's almost then evaporated. So this could be the perfect game for Newcastle in that sense, but it's one I wouldn't like to call. I really wouldn't.
Well, it's outrageous, really, that this is a battle between 2 teams so far down the table. I mean, you look at the Premier League table, and you're talking about a match between Newcastle in 12th and Tottenham in 15th. Both these 2 teams are playing in the Champions League this season. It shouldn't be that way, should it? But it is. And Tottenham Hotspur, as you say, so often struggle in that stadium, and Newcastle struggle away from home. So it would be interesting to see what happens
0-0
in the match. I'll tell you what will happen. Is Radu Dragusin's going to have to play at the back alongside Mickey van der Ven. So I'm sure that Newcastle will feel as if they can get on the score sheet, because he looked hesitant in the game against Manchester United. And I do feel a bit sorry for him, because he's been rushed back from a year out with an ACL injury, and he's got to get up to speed. And that's because the captain has rushed into a challenge, and he's after turning around and saying, it's a disgrace that we haven't got enough players. They haven't got him for 4 matches. You know why? Because he's already been sent off once, and he's got a 3-game ban for violent conduct. Brilliant. Well done, fella. Absolutely sensational. Serious foul play or endangering the safety of an opponent. Either way, he's out for 4 games, which is not great for his team. And actually, talking to Thomas Frank after the match on Saturday, I actually felt a bit sorry for him, because he's run out of answers, Crook. He's run out of answers. Yeah. He doesn't know what to say anymore.
No, I think he's I think he's surprised how badly it's gone. And, I feel for him because he's a good guy. I think he is a good coach. But maybe this is a job that is just a little bit too big for him. But if he does end up being relieved of his duties, as I fear is the destination we're heading, I still think there's a lot of players in that dressing room, Romero in particular, who need to take a long, hard look at themselves.
Okay.
Sorry,
Go on, Scott. Finish it off before you say anything.
it's not Thomas Frank that's the issue here, although he may well lose his job. They've chewed up and spat out far too many managers and top-class managers of the past as well. There's a recruitment issue that needs to be sorted. I didn't see the January window, the owners stepping up and saying, this is the statement we want to make, despite it being a difficult window. But you say Tottenham won't go down, and I don't think they will. But if West Ham beat United and Tottenham lose to Newcastle, there's only 3 points difference.
And they've got a massive game against Nottingham Forest in the North London Derby in the next couple of matches. So, listen, as I said, I don't think they'll go down, but I do think they're going to be in a battle. I do think they're going to be scrapping around. And I said that to Stuart Pearce a couple of weeks ago. I said, they are in trouble because there's not the spirit there.
Mm.
That is a massive, massive problem. And all of a sudden, West Ham started to fight. It's come from something. It might have come from the Paquetá situation, but it's come from something. There's fight there. I'm not sure about Nottingham Forest, whether they've got the fight either, looking at how they performed on Friday night. But I do think there's a battle there. And I listen, for Tottenham's sake, Tottenham shouldn't be going down to the Championship. We can't have Tottenham in the Championship. And I don't think that will happen. But it isn't going to be easy. Right, okay, bold prediction time, because as you know, when we record podcasts ahead of things that are going to happen, and the podcast is going to come out after the event, right? Mm-hmm. So tonight's the Super Bowl, and Crook and I are in the basement already, all set up, ready to go. We've ordered our pizza. It's arriving in 5 minutes. Okay, we've got our whiskey all ready. Now, Crook obviously is such an expert on the NFL that he is now going to tell us what happens in the Super Bowl, so that when we wake up tomorrow morning, this podcast is not going to be out of date because he's already told us what's happened. What's happened?
Well, you want the Pats to win, don't you? Because that would prove you as some kind of genius when it comes to predicting the NFL. So I'm going for the opposition.
Who are they?
I'm obviously going to go for Seattle, just to annoy you.
Seattle what?
Seahawks.
Correct. Well, at least we've got that right. It's quite amazing.
Here we go. I think the Seattle quarterback will get MVP.
Who's the Seattle quarterback?
That fellow who can throw the ball a long way.
This is what I'm dealing with. Oh my God. My word. Anyway. All right. Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate that. I'm going to spend the next 4 hours trying to educate this guy what NFL's all about. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Who's the halftime show?
Bad Bunny. You know what that is?
Related to bugs?
He's doing it all in Spanish as well, apparently.
Allegedly so, which will be good for me and you, Scott, but not so good for Crookmeister. But by then, there'll be 4 whiskies in and he won't know what's going on anyway. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll be back on Friday morning, I think, to review all of the midweek action and preview or what could be a great weekend in the FA Cup. We'll mainly concentrate on the Premier League, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you very much for joining us on Premier League All Access. And whatever you do, as I touch my microphone annoyingly, please tell all your friends about Premier League Access. All Access from talkSPORT. It's available on the talkSPORT app, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much and have a good week.